area where I work, there's a lot of poverty and people live on the breadline, and they are really impacted by austerity and cuts in funding. So things like domestic violence, drug and alcohol addiction become quite prevalent in times of austerity, and those projects are the projects that lose their funding. So our residents then get really disempowered.
Really, especially with all the uncertainty around funding and everything else that's going on, at a wider level, is really to make sure that the routes they have into their constituent communities are really strong, and the direction of travel that they're heading down is checked back with those communities, so that with that, it's getting back to those kind of essential core ingredients really, which is what is your purpose, and to make sure that that purpose is fully checked out, and the members of the group are really engaged in making the decisions about the direction of the organisation when faced with all this change.
I think the priority issues are around survival of those who are providing the services, and also making sure that the best use of resources is being made so that we can actually benefit the clients who we are all working with.
Inevitably funding, but I'm sure that's what everybody's saying. I think we should really focus on the reorganisation of and restructuring of local government and health, and be very clear about where the people who make the decisions are, so that we can ensure that our voices are heard at the appropriate level. Now we've got a horse.
We'll just let the horse go by. Here I come.
Be nice backdrop, wouldn't it, horses? So it's about making sure that, particularly because of the health reforms and because of the different legislative changes that are going to impact on local government, like localism, that we're clear, that the sector's clear about what that means for them and how they can work with public authorities, particularly the local authority, in ensuring that the needs of the most vulnerable in the city are met. And I think the biggest challenge as well is for the sector and the local authority to really understand what vulnerability is. I think we work with many definitions of that, and it would be quite useful for us to come to some conclusion about the most vulnerable, because clearly with the lack of finance at the moment, it is not going to be possible to serve all the people that have been served by both the VCS and by the local authority and health authorities.
I think with the current economic climate, everybody knows things are really difficult. We've seen lots of our sister agencies going to the walls and cuts right, left and centre, but at the same time we're seeing a rising number of clients coming to us who are desperate for help and support in lots of other ways. So all the more reason why we have to work closer together, we have to work closer with the local authority and other relevant agencies.
I think the main issue that all of us will face is sustainability of our finances. So it's really generating income. Our traditional incomes from places like Bristol City Council are being reduced, or if not eliminated, and also the other traditional income streams from charitable trusts and foundations are also under pressure, with them producing less income themselves from their investments, but also a greater competition for those investments. So we're all going for the same funding.
I'm not biased, but my main focus, if I'm honest, is children and young people, because there's plenty of people who are looking at all the other issues that need to be looked at around crime, youth unemployment, etc, etc, etc. So the areas I think that need focusing on is making sure that grassroots organisations are engaged thoroughly in this process, have a full understanding of having their voices heard, and that they are actually really influencing, that it's not all talk. That also that work is done around keeping family intervention projects going at a level that helps people to engage with it and makes a difference. Also, my concern is Bristol Youth Links on their transparency about, especially now that they're cutting funds already with no clear leading to new provision yet. Projects are closing now, no projects being delivered to August. Some of the young people we are dealing with are T1s, they cannot wait. 6 to 4 months for a new intervention is unacceptable, and you're going to actually have a decline in the good work or the loss of good work being done until this new provision's in place. I don't feel that's acceptable and should be allowed.
I think, particularly in Bristol, the voluntary sector needs to really do more networking, coordination, that kind of thing, so that we can start to share what some of those wider goals might be, and bringing those together may start to address change which goes beyond the immediate group, the immediate voluntary sector. So I think that impact of voluntary sector working together with local authority and other partners, and particularly resident groups, is really key. I think that will be something that will make Bristol a stronger city in the future.
One of the areas that I think will increase is the tendering of services from places like the council and other statutory organisations. Now, those tenders tend to be quite big, and both in terms of geography as well as value, which then excludes most of the individual smaller charities. But if we can come together, then we can go for those tenders either in partnership, or my preferred way is in some form of consortia. So it's organising the third sector in the city so that we can actually respond quickly, timely and professionally to any tenders.
If I'm going to be honest, everybody, including the voluntary sector that's here now, needs to listen to the people on the ground. People say things are from the bottom up, but unless you can prove that a little bit more to the community, I don't think they're going to believe until they actually see that what they're saying does make a practical difference, that you've got these neighbourhood groups, that they're making a difference, that the council's listening to them.
I think it's very difficult because there are so many issues, but I think we're increasingly seeing families, children, young people struggling to survive and to protect their own well-being and development. Obviously, within BAND, we're an agency that primarily works with children and young people and their families, so perhaps that's what we would see. But the ripples from this are going out further and further. I think we have to protect the vulnerable is what we're talking about here, and particularly children and young people. It's well documented, a rocky start in life, if you like, is going to mean that people will struggle later on. I think it's all the more reason why we have to be working closely together. We have to continually keep at the back of our minds what are the implications for children and young people.
In my area, there are so many different issues that impact different generations of the community: education, health, access to employment, transport, environment even. So I think there's lots of key issues that we should be focusing on.
People want things to improve. They generally want things to be better, but you have to be out there communicating to get that information. Just need to keep on the ball with that and be ahead of the game.
The one that's really sort of on my mind at the moment is that around community organising, making sure that residents are properly engaged. And obviously we have neighbourhood partnership and a whole bunch of machinery around that, but there's obviously a lot more local stuff that needs to be done to make sure that those kind of groupings are really fully made use of. And obviously it's not just about the local authority, there is a lot of action that residents do on their own back, and I think much more organising work needs to go on at the very local level to make sure people do feel they've got a stake in their community, whatever, however large that community is. Lots of opportunities to engage around the very local. I think it is really, really important, and I think we're not there yet in Bristol. I think there's a lot, there's some areas that have done a lot on that, but by all means not all. And I think we need to really push on that and give support to residents to make those first steps, and then hopefully everything else will kind of fall into place.